Good evening. Welcome to DiversiTV Season 3. My name is Mark Harris. Tonight we have a special Longhouse update that we'll be doing. The way that we begin traditionally, because the Longhouse isn't just simply a building. It is a structure for doing sacred education, shall we say, connecting us all. So to begin with, let's begin with a song. So I'd like to have Pony, if you could do that for us, do us that honor.
This is an Apache welcoming song, and so kind of appropriate to do it at the start of the show. When I don't know, 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 when you send chica chica choya when I don't know. You send chica chica choya when I don't know when you send chica chica choya chica choya when I don't know when hey I don't know when they are when I know.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It should be noted as a welcoming song. That is, it's always interesting trying to explain to our non-Indian relatives that whenever we're doing a song, it's prayer, not a performance. So you don't like clap at a powwow when the song's over. It's, you know, welcoming.
Yeah. That particular song, you know, is used a lot of times at the beginning, sometimes in the middle, sometimes at the end of get-togethers. It's particularly used to welcome, you know, all of us together. You know, they're walking around on the earth, and then also to welcome in all that energy that might contribute to the endeavor one way or the other. If it's a powwow, if it's just a gathering of people, if it's a business meeting or things like that, you know, there's a lot of energy, as everybody can see. You know, sometimes the best laid plans, you know, get derailed by things that we don't seem to have any control over, and it's just, you know, making sure that we give credence to those other things that are in the world. You know, anybody will tell you that those things are true.
Yeah. I noticed, and you happened to mention when we were out milling logs, and we have a couple of shots and some video that we'll be showing later on in the program. Basically, what we're talking about today is the Longhouse, and just to give people an update about where we are with that process in terms of construction. It's been a vision of many of in the Lane community, the Native community in and around Lane, starting with Frank Merrill, among others, to build a longhouse, which is basically a structure designed to continue with cultural education and other related activities. And so one of the things that we've been doing in terms of raising money and raising awareness, and we finally broke ground a year and a half ago, and so one of the things I wanted to I noted that you were doing and trying to explain to folks, especially with our construction crew, is like, this is not just a building.
No.
So everything that you do within that building, within that structure, from the beginning, from the conception of it to the other shall we say, execution of the building has to be done in a somewhat more than somewhat sacred manner. So when you're cutting logs and when we show that video, you're singing, which of course you can't pick up on the mic. So can you talk about that a little?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, you know, there's a couple of ways to look at a building like this. You know, there's so many cultural buildings in our world, you know, and then so many public buildings that might have a cultural aspect to them. Museums, different tribal offices and things like that. When I first heard about the Longhouse construction project wanting to be made, I got interested in becoming a part of it. I'm a Longhouse singer myself, and I've traveled as far south as Ashland and as far north as Celilo Falls with our elders singing our Longhouse songs. And I thought that we could bring something really special to the project by creating it in a different way, by not just having the community college going out and basically buying a building. You know, anybody can go out and put out the money and the funds to go buy a building. And Lane Community College and the people that I had talked to here were talking about wanting to do something a little bit different. They're wanting to have more ownership over the building, wanting to have more connection to everything, including the 2x4s and 2x6s that make it. The idea was proposed that these timbers and the other large construction components be made by Native people, be made on site as much as possible, and be made in a way that's respectful to the material at hand. Just so happens I own the Long Tom Custom Sawmill in Veneta, and you know, as a contractor, I'm able to come out on site. You know, here's some photographs, some pictures of us cutting on site. You know,
that was actually just today.
Yeah. That was some of the work that was going on here today on campus, and logs were donated and brought to the site. You know, logs were taken from the forest, logs were taken from other properties, logs were taken from Lane Community College and brought right here to the site. And in a time where people are talking about carbon footprint, in a time where people are talking about sustainability and things like that, you know, take a look at the equipment that's needed. It's very lightweight. Yeah. It's very nimble, you know, and I can produce some really nice pieces of material. Right now what we're cutting, these pictures that you guys see, these are all going to be the attic rafters in the Longhouse. Earlier this summer I came out and cut all the purlins for the large timber frame structure. Also, all the beams and other larger construction components were made in the last couple of weeks worth of cutting. You know, in an effort to make sure things are done in an environmental and ecological fashion. You know, I run biodiesel in the forklift, I run biodiesel in the crane, I run ethanol in the sawmill, and also I can run an ethanol blend for my chainsaws. You know, the work that was ongoing over the last couple of weeks particularly, really we had a small, you know, really it was just me cutting over the last couple of weeks to create quite a large amount of material for the project. And hopefully, you know, everything here at Lane Community College is done kind of the traditional way that Lane Community College does things. They put things out to bid, and I get to compete with all the other contractors out there in the world. So far, I've been competitive, and hopefully I'll continue to be competitive for the rest of the project.
Well, I think that, you know, one of the things that's really critical to talk about, it's not so much, you know, whether it's the lowest bid, but it's also the spirit of the thing, because that's really important. Yeah,
it's really important, and it would be great if that was the only criteria for participating in the project. And
back in the day, it was.
Yeah. I get to, you know, put in my proposals just like everybody else. There's a lot of other sawyers out there, some with the capacity that we have, and some who don't, you know. Some of the timbers that we cut here on site were over 36 feet long, excuse me. and were cut from logs over 40 inches in diameter. So quite a bit of cutting going on out here over the last couple of days, and putting that structure together is going to be a lot of fun. We have a nice crane for building projects like this, and yeah, I've been doing it for quite some time now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
A lot of fun.
Go to slide for a second. So this is a picture that Richard Archambault, and I'd like to bring Richard on. You know, he's we got a mic for you here. You didn't think you were going to escape, but this is an old growth tree. And where is this from?
This is on Road 250.
Road 250.
Sweet Home Ranger District.
Sweet Home Ranger. Okay, district. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Now it's
come back here.
Yeah, it's a real unique opportunity here, you know, in this context, because we know the trees that became our building.
Yeah.
You know, and as we continue to build and as we continue to select material for this project, we are going to have a personal relationship with the material that we're building this longhouse out of.
Yeah.
That in and of itself creates a very unique experience for the college. You know, everything from very, very large and structural components, even to the finished product inside. The wainscotings and the panelings inside are all going to be made from trees that we were able to talk to. You know, that might seem kooky, you know, and I'm sure there's a lot of loggers out there.
Not kooky if you Indian. I mean, or
no.
Not, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, you know, being a black Indian and on the African side, like when you're dedicating a pyramid, when you're, you know, building timbers for a transatlantic ship, whatever, it's the spirit of the thing.
That's
and
right.
you basically have to deal with, you know, the fact that whatever you talk to the tree that you're making a drum for, you know, and, you know, the spirit of the tree lives on in the drum. Right. And it's a living thing. It's a living process.
Right.
It isn't just an object.
Right. And Richard saw that opportunity right off, you know, and through much finagling and a little piracy and a little bit of, I'm playing it up a little bit for Richard because he likes that kind of thing. But the reality is, you know, Frank Merrill's vision was to have a building like this.
Yes.
Our elders' vision was to have a building like this. And in spite of sometimes the process, in spite of the process that the community college is bound and constrained to participate in, the Native community has continued, myself and Richard, Frank, and other members of the Longhouse Committee and the Longhouse Board, really been out there fighting every chance that we can to bring that hands-on component, to bring that personal attachment to it, that ownership to the entire project.
Yeah.
And at the end of the project, we're going to have a very special place.
It is often a struggle, you know, even, you know, from, I have to say, you know, just, you know, because, you know, I talk to, say, my Jewish friends, and they say, yeah, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, you know. I mean, it's like, you know, talking with my dad, it's like, you know, when I complained about my first gray hair, and he said, boy, I was totally gray at 35. And I said, why? And he said, well, you're dealing with dope fiends, I was dealing with black folks. So sometimes it's your own people that give you the most grief in terms of, you know, well, look, it's not a Native nation that's building a longhouse. It's an academic institution of the state of Oregon, right? So we're constrained, but, you know, we're a unionized environment, so, and we're our own contractor, and, you know, Kalapuya, we're not longhouse people. We're on Kalapuya ground, right? You know, you're Lakota, you're Mescalero Apache, I'm Choctaw, you know, Frank's Karuk, I mean, and so we have different ideas about, you know, what honoring is and what can go in there and all kinds of things. It's an interesting process.
It is. I've learned so much about longhouses. My culture, we didn't have it. You know, ours were teepee, drug behind a horse. That was our longhouse. And it's been very interesting to me over the years that that I looked at this and read about it and studied and found out what a longhouse really was about. And I've enjoyed it immensely. It's been really a cultural boost to me as far as that. And I want to share this with everybody out there. You know, this is just not a longhouse for Native American people. This is a longhouse for all people to come and visit and see and learn what real Indians are and who we are and how we feel and how much we share of everything we have. And that's my intentions of this whole thing. That's why I'm on it and I want it to be done.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things in talking about this, you know, because I remember early on, I mean, I've been a staff person here for 16 years, so talking about this
Goes back a long ways,
16 years ago, you know, and saying, okay, this is a structure that is to teach all of us how to get along together.
That's
you know,
it.
an indigenous structure, you know, welcoming for everyone. So it's not just, you know, again, as you say, it's not just for Native people. It's also for us to get together, specifically intentioned to structure so we bring each of our piece of the pie, each of our 4 directions to that particular process.
And bring all Indian people together.
Yeah.
You know, that's the big thing. You know, growing up, I remember from a small child, I had a little black and white TV set, you know, in my room. Dad bought me. And I always used to love this. I'd be watching Cowboys and Indians on Saturday afternoons, and I'd see Apaches running around with full war bonnets. And I don't know. You know, and everybody's got a war bonnet on.
They don't have full war bonnets, but okay. Yeah,
but that's what I, you know, this is not Hollywood.
Right.
This is real Indians.
Right. Yeah. Go to slide for a second. This is a shot from the groundbreaking a year and a half ago. Let's see, Happy, you know, the guy in the black shirt. Let's see, there's Frank Merrill, in his hat with, you know, the eagle feather, number of kids. Happy, who was student body president, he's the black Indian in the black T-shirt. Sandon Riddle, basically, and I think that's a vice president in the tie. Basically breaking ground on the present site. This is about a year and a half ago. This is when we get the power equipment to break ground even further.
This was actually the first shovel.
The first shovel, the first power shovel.
Right.
So one of the things I want to getting back to you guys, come back to us in the. So where are you from?
Me?
Yeah.
I was born in Oklahoma, okay, on the Cherokee Reservation here in Tahlequah. And I have been in every state in the United States because my parents worked for the Bureau of Indian Affairs for quite a number of years. My father was an administrative troubleshooter. So we lived on many, many reservations, mainly in the Southwest. And my mother was a surgical RN, and she would go in and teach nursing to the Indians on the reservations. So we got around quite a bit. And, both my parents are gone now. My sister now is, which I'm very proud of her, she is the Director of Native American Studies at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C.
Okay. So when I'm going to D.C., I should look her up.
Please do. Please do.
Okay.
Tell
And
her little brother's, you know, grown up a little bit.
And you, Pony?
I was born in Merced, California, in Central California. Both sides of my family are from the other side of the border now, but you know, our homeland is the Sonoran Mountains in New Mexico. Both sides of the border were, you know, fair game for us, and then that lovely border came right across, and depending on who was chasing us, you know, if it was the Federales, we were over on this side. If it was the cavalry, we, you know, sneaked down to the other side, and you know, when borders are hot topics these days.
Yes. Right.
So yeah,
I didn't used to be no borders in my
right. I'm a storyteller, and we'll go to elementary schools and junior high schools, and one of my favorite things to do is I'll take down the map of the United States and I'll pull it down and I'll say, hey, what's with all those squiggly lines all over Oklahoma and Texas and gets around Florida? And I ask the kids, I say, can you see that from outer space? And every single kindergartner, every single first grader, every single kid in the whole room knows that those things aren't real. Yeah. Those borders aren't real. And I say, that's right. We made all that up. And some of those borders cut right in through, you know, some people's backyards.
Yes.
So, you know, that's my family story. You know, and the migration keeps on northward, and here I am. My wife is from Palmer, Alaska. She's a Cherokee from Palmer, Alaska, if you can believe that. And we have 3 kids and 1 more on the way. So this summer we'll have 4, and big part of what we do besides our workaday world is to go out, participate in as many powwows as we can, to tell stories, to share our songs, and to just keep making things better as we go along. You know, one of our biggest dreams, my wife's biggest dreams, and my biggest dreams, is that our children will be raised in a world where they didn't know any other way. That Longhouse was always a part of it. Powwow was always a part of it. Our songs were always a part of it. Because for myself, and I know for Richard, that it wasn't always cool to do this kind of thing.
Right.
You know,
In fact, it was illegal for a long time.
That's right.
For many years.
And
that's
a lot of our family members, and I'm sure we all can attest to this, there's some that say, oh, bro, why you want to get into all that Indian stuff? Why you want to get into all that old stuff? It's 2008 now. Get yourself an Escalade and step on up with all the other people. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that going on in the world.
Right.
But I still drive my old pickups, and I still, you know, work my day and do my thing. And you know, it's kind of a funny thing sometimes, the way I guess the work that I chose to do. But here we are, and we're building a longhouse for LCC. Yeah.
Do we have any rolls of the site today? I mean, we had some shots. So I don't know if you have that, Dean. But basically, one of the things we wanted to talk about today is, you know, how far there has been progress, and yeah, we have a ways to go. Of
Right.
course.
This is these pictures here are of a lot of the completed timbers from the last couple of weeks of sawing. I've been out on site with the sawmill and some other equipment, taking logs that have been donated to the project. Richard can talk about, you know, the sources of that material, and really I'm clogging up parking spaces here on campus.
People are complaining about sawdust on their cars, but
yeah.
it's sacred sawdust.
That's right,
you
it's
know?
sacred
Come
sawdust,
on.
and if people knew what was going on with this sawdust, they'd say, oh no, don't brush it off. It's
Yeah,
good."
cedar sawdust.
right.
I mean, come on.
That's right.
Some of it's cedar.
Some
of it's cedar, all right,
Most
right.
of the pictures you see here are of Douglas fir, a lot of large beams. Again, a lot of this material is over 36 feet long. It's not stuff that you can just go out to Jerry's and buy.
Yeah,
You
right.
know,
Custom order.
That's right. That's right. And it's going to make quite a nice timber structure. The foundations were poured.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there we go.
That's the
Yeah.
way the site looked this afternoon. The foundations are poured. The rock is compacted. A lot of the infrastructure is in the ground. The electricity, the plumbing, and all that under slab stuff is
Yeah.
in there.
It's
Right.
in there.
So far, the project has been a combination of LCC on-site staff,
Yeah.
contractors like myself, and also a little bit of volunteerism has gone into the site so far. And we're just off the center building here. I guess this view is from the center building looking out onto the job site. So there we are in the middle of the parking lot, and kind of inconspicuous at the moment, but there's a lot of work that needs to go in before those timbers can start being put up, before those large poles can start being erected and constructed to start looking like the longhouse. The interior of the building is going to be built with very large peeled poles, and then on top of that is going to be a timber frame type roof structure.
Okay.
And then surrounding that is going to be a pretty conventional building.
Yeah.
2x6 construction, insulated, you know, modern day conveniences
Probably
like
air
electricity.
conditioned,
That's
yeah,
right.
right.
Here we have some
this is some of
conceptual
the-
shots. Yeah. Richard can talk about this a little bit.
Go ahead.
Okay, these are some of the banners that I had made up recently. This is the site looking at it from the south to the north, approximate that area. The sides of the building will be shake shingles, which here again, I have to commend the United States Forest Service gave us all this material to make all this stuff right here on campus. These were made in Springfield by a company over there. They helped donate some of their time. They saved us quite a big chunk of change.
Yeah,
So
good.
I've come down to that. If you can go on to the one at the left upper, right by the center, where you see the big center
Yeah, right.
part of it. The structure itself is 6,500 square feet. Price tag on it this week is
This
one
week.
is $1.4 million. But it's going to be quite unique. The logs structure up in the right-hand corner, you will see that when you walk into the building. That will be just out in the open. Some of the beams that Pony has cut here lately is clear heart, beautiful material, will be above that, holding the main roof up. So it's going to be quite the thing. The little round circle over here is going to be the honor room. This will be honoring all of the 9 Confederated Tribes of Oregon. All right. On the walls of that room, I'm trying to get some cedar down, and I'm working with U.S. Forestry again. I have that one tree that he showed you earlier. Hopefully I'll get that down. And that tree itself is about 7 feet across.
7 feet?
Across, yes. That shot was done from the road about 50 yards, 100 yards away with a very zoom lens.
That first shot?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
It's a big tree, and it's about 150, 200 feet tall. I wasn't there very long when I took the shot. Wow. The snow was starting to come, and I didn't want to get caught where I was at. So, I'm trying to get forestry to get that tree. But one thing I will not do, we're going to go out and bore these trees to make sure they're not rotten. I will not take a tree that is rotten in the center. Because what I want to do is bring one of those rounds in, a huge round, maybe about 2 inches thick or something like that. Finish it off very nicely so you can see all the grain and everything else. We're going to hang that on the wall to show how large these trees really are and how old. Some of those trees up there are 3,000 or 4,000 years old.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, and why they are sacred to the Indians of this area.
So why?
I think Pony can explain that a little bit better since he works in the wood industry.
Well, there's the wood industry and all that hot topic stuff that's going on right now. There's a lot that's going on in the woods, and people have been. It was a process called begging boards. The original plank houses, the original long houses, up and down the Pacific Northwest coast, even on the East Coast. Long house was the way of life, and then all points in between. Because as everybody knew before and are becoming aware of again, these weren't just isolated pockets of people on this continent. We commerced with each other.
A trading
we
relationship
moved
up and
around.
down,
We had good highways that went from Mexico to Alaska and back again. And
no borders, we might add.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And Longhouse was a big way of life. Longhouse was a big place to exchange ideas. Longhouse was a great meeting place. And these big old trees, begging boards used to be the way that they made planks back then. 600-700 years ago, 1,000 years ago, maybe 5,000-6,000 years ago, there weren't the lucky power equipment that I have these days, to make these. And men would go out and women would go out into the woods, and they would take axes and they would take stone tools and they would take glass tools, and they would cut a channel along the side of the tree, and they would cut another channel up higher above, and they would cut back behind it, and they would take a smooth rod and they would place that in that channel that they had made, and they would pry and they would pull and they would split a board. They would start to split a piece of this cedar. And if anybody's ever chopped kindling before, cedar can split real nice. And they would take and they would pull 5, 6, maybe 10 or 20 brothers on the end of a rope, pulling this board, just getting an inch of give to it, so that rod would slip just a little bit more. And they pull again and set their ropes a little lower, so they would pull and drop that rod just a little farther. And when you see these pictures of these old plank houses with these 50-foot tall facades up and down the Northwest coast, these plank houses, these potlatch houses. Longhouse went all the way up the Columbia and then into Idaho and Montana and things like that. This was the old way of doing it. They really liked these big facades on their buildings. And we're trying to honor that. We're trying to bring that aspect into this longhouse. The Longhouse Committee designed this longhouse a long time ago. And it's something that is going to be real impressive to see, a lot of this big timber, and we use, we use wood traditionally. We use wood in modern times. We use wood in historic times. And if we're going to cut down a tree, if we're going to take material from the forest, I'm sure there'd be some people that say, well, why do you have to cut down anything at all? We have to choose some material to use for this project. And we really believe that doing it in this way, taking the material in this way, knowing which trees we select, not just going down to the Home Depot and being completely oblivious as to, you know, what kind of forest or where in the world this material came from. Yeah. We know how far this wood has traveled because we walked with it all the way. All the way. Richard has gone up and touched those trees and, you know, has made his peace with those trees before they came here. And then once they come here...
There's a relationship there.
There is. There really is. There is. There really is. And, you know, we can talk about Indian themes all day long. We can talk about all that.
But you got to walk your talk.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I think that this... this endeavor of the Longhouse, this endeavor to do it in a traditional way, listening to our elders like Frank, listening to our elders like Richard, who have wanted this to be built in a better way.
Right.
Yeah. And even if it's not the easiest way to do it, and a lot of times it isn't,
well,
you know, here we are. And we got to do it all in a way where we still got to be competitive in the modern world, you know, and we're making it happen.
Economically competitive, by the way, rather than cooperative.
That's right.
Because, you know, what we're talking about, you know, again, it's... you know, you use words like potlatch, from which, you know, the English word potluck comes from. We're talking, we're in the middle of election season now, right? So the word caucus is an Algonquin word, basically, you know, from the Longhouse people, you know, our concept of democracy, except where, you know, in that framework of democracy, it's every human being who's an adult, every human being has a voice in the government. You know, a representative form of government. Every human being. Nobody is disenfranchised, and there's no illegal aliens. It's, you know, if you're here, you're participating, you know, you have a voice, period. End of discussion, right? And so, you know, when we talk about carrying that spirit, going into the forest, selecting the trees, developing a relationship with the tree, you know, the idea of you're not just cutting down this, you know, this natural resource here. This is actually, you're borrowing from the 7th generation, you know, that hasn't even been born yet, and you're taking it in that spirit, and you're trying to build something that's going to last, and trying to be conscious all the way. So when you talked about, you know, singing to it, you know, we began the program with a song, and, you know, you're singing, you know, with, what kind of song are you singing when you're cutting? I mean, is there a special Longhouse board cutting song, or you know, what are you singing? What are you doing?
Sometimes it's just rock and roll.
Yeah.
You know,
I saw him out there the other day with his little earphones on.
Yeah.
He was bouncing around.
Yeah. But, you know, it's not, sometimes it can be a very moving thing, you know, for myself, to look at what it is that we're doing, you know, my part in it, you know. And sometimes I just get up and I want to go to work in the morning too. And even on those days, you know, I want to put a little different piece of me into the project, and I can do that, you know. And it's not sneaky, and it's not, it enhances the project every single time. Again, in a world where people are talking about carbon footprint.
You're right.
And you know, all those things of sustainability and things like that. You know, sometimes even I feel like green can just be a coat of paint.
Yes.
If the practice isn't done well. You know, if the practice
a
is,
politically
if it doesn't,
correct veneer.
Well, you know, if it doesn't make sense, you know,
Right.
and gosh, this really does make sense, you know.
Yeah. I mean, the essence of spirituality is practicality. So,
That's right.
I mean, the fact that you're using biodiesel, bioethanol, you know,
it's just great stuff. It's great. It's, you know, lucky there's a vendor for that close by to the college, and you know, it just enhances what we're doing anyway. You know, there are some folks out there that are never going to forgive me for cutting down a large tree. You know, and I can't think of a more environmentally friendly thing to do.
Yeah.
I can't think of a more traditional thing to do, and I can't think of a more of a better place to put this kind of material than in some place where when you walk in and you look up, you see it, you can touch it, you can talk to it. You know, there's wood all in these walls, but you can't see it. You know,
right.
The only thing that looks like wood is this table, and It's
Yeah.
not real wood.
Yeah. Yeah, there's particle board.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
right.
yeah. So we're going to give those trees a real nice home.
Yeah.
We're going to give those trees a real nice home, and we're very grateful for the gifts that they have been able to provide.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just really cool. For a lot of us, it's been not only a desire to build buildings like this, but to be able and to have the opportunity to do this in our secular life as well. You know, this is my regular job. This is what I get to do for a living. So it's not always easy to find these kind of jobs. It's not always easy to sell this kind of work. But today, this
Right.
you know, it's a great thing. Yeah.
If you could go back to the log structure part of the slide, I would like to make a point that one of the local tribes, that upper panel to
Upper
the right,
panel on the right.
on the right. As soon as you get it on there for me. Okay, guys, push the right button.
Yeah, they got it. They got it. They got it. Is that
Okay,
what-
good. That's good. Those up there, those logs were donated by the Coquille, and I know I pronounced that.
Coquille.
Coquille, thank you. I'm terrible with that name. They
It's
were
all right.
all donated out of their forest to us. And I can't even, I was told once the price tag on those things, but those were milled up in Moala by a small man. He doesn't have a very big operation up there. And he is the only one in the western United States can handle logs these big, because these logs are 24 inches around and 36 feet long. That is a monstrous log, and there's, I forgot, 10 of them there, something like that. And then he put a draw knife finish on it. I think you have a picture
Oh,
of it.
yeah.
And that was the machine.
That's what you were talking about. Okay.
Yeah, if you could
Well,
pull that
not
up.
yet, not yet. Just
Okay,
stay-
but at any rate, you know, they did that all up there for us, and it really helped us out a whole lot.
Yeah,
with
the
that.
pictures they're showing here of the logs kind of in hibernation. There they
Yeah.
are, hiding underneath there, getting protected from the elements out there. They were delivered in
There
the
we go,
summer.
there we
Yeah. And then the painters here at Lane Community College put a nice finish on them to help protect them, and they're just staying out of the bright sunshine and out of the rain and the snow. And we'll construct the main part of the building, the big gathering hall, and then also the honor room with logs very similar to these. Yeah. And Richard, by the way, he's not the only one that can handle logs that big, because we here on campus, myself was cutting.
Pony. Hey.
That's right. 36 feet long.
Excuse me, I meant to say on a, what do they call that, turning them.
Right.
Yeah, he's the only one that can turn these logs.
And then the largest log we were cutting here at Lane Community College on campus was 42 inches in diameter.
42.
That's
Ooh.
right. That by
was it?
36 feet long, and
Yeah.
that's no small toothpick. That's a big chunk of wood.
If you could go to
Yeah.
slide for a second. This is the draw knife finish that he was talking about. So what's going on here in this slide?
This is just a small machine. The man that runs it, it just sits there and rocks. The log is turning very, very slowly, and he's just standing in place, rocking that back and forth, and that's what puts the draw knife finish
It's
on
a
it.
curved hand planer. It
Okay.
has
Yeah.
curved planer knives inside, about the size of a belt sander, a handheld belt sander, and it's a really labor-intensive, hands-on kind of work.
You have to be
know.
watching it constantly.
That's right.
And this is just one of the shots of some of the work that's been done.
Well,
This-
basically, it's definitely simulating what the work that had to have been done hundreds of years ago.
Oh,
with
absolutely.
Non-power tools.
If
Right,
you
right.
leave the bark on, if you leave that cambrium layer between the bark and the wood, that rots.
Right.
And then once you install it and things like that, it'll start to fall off and flake off and
Right.
be a nice home for bugs. So in an effort to preserve that material, in an effort to dry it out and make it really stable, is to remove that bark. And it's a traditional finish, that draw knife finish. It's a very nice way to do it. This pictures of the sawmill here cutting some boards. Again, today we were finishing up cutting all of the attic rafters for the buildings, not the main hall, but the classrooms and kitchens and the surrounding rooms around there will have a very large attic for storage and future use. And today we were cutting all the attic rafters for that. So a really good process out there. Yep.
I was struck in our meeting today. We had a Longhouse committee meeting today about all the different sections of the community, the Indian community and the non-Native community, collaborating on this. So even though when it gets somewhat contentious and tempers get hot and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
Still coming out with creating the vision, however slowly it happens. So to some, it may seem that it's happening at a glacial pace, but it is proceeding. So, I was actually impressed by, when we went out to the site, oh, well, there is progress. There is
Quite a
some
bit
progress.
going on out there. It's just at ground level and you can't see it.
Right, and, pouring the concrete slab and, we're still looking for donations of materials and in-kind stuff and
Most definitely.
and things for producing. We're actually going to be doing, in addition to this show, which will be rebroadcast a few times, looking at doing some community concerts and other things to advertise the construction of the Longhouse, and also when we go out to bid for for workers, there'll be opportunities for other people to participate.
Right. We talked today. I was there at the Longhouse committee meeting today, and today we talked about myself being a member of the Native community, being a dancer that has been coming to the LCC Palace for a long time, and then also being a contractor who wants to be involved in the actual construction of it. Today at the meeting we talked about creating a situation where we can access some work experience programs that are being funded by the some local tribes to bring folks into it in a format. Now remember, we got to put everything in a format where everybody's covered by appropriate wage rates, everybody's covered by appropriate insurance,
and all that stuff,
because let me tell you, $2 million worth of insurance policy doesn't go as far as it used to.
No, I'm sure.
And in the context of being a legitimate construction company and all that, we get to play by all those game rules and things like that. And we're always looking for the committee, myself as a builder, the community. We're always looking for a scenario where all those pieces of the pie can come together.
Yeah.
Donations, good numbers from good contractors. The scenario sometimes is what's going to help bridge that budget gap. If we just put this project out to bid and let, which we do. The community college has to put it out to bid, and contractors like me have to participate in a competitive bid. They call it a competitive bid process, where sometimes the lowest number does win. And that's the realities that I get to deal with, that if I want to participate in this, my numbers have got to be very competitive with everybody else out in the world, regardless of how they bring the process to bear.
But it has to be said, because, going out on the site today, all right, for me it isn't so much, it's not really woo-woo at all. You can definitely feel the vibe. You can definitely feel the prayers in particular parts of the building, like for the example, the honor room. It's not just because it's...
When I made you walk,
Yeah, when you made, right. You didn't even, warm and go, whoa, what is this? What's going
circle.
on? The honor circle, right?
Right.
It's like, okay, something, okay. So,
There is
all right,
something there.
there's prayers in there. You can feel the vibe. So it's not so much just about the competitive bid, the lowest economic numbers. It's also who brings the right heart, the right spirit. Because, again, when we talk about all the care that's gone into, selecting the trees, having a relationship with the trees, singing while you're cutting the wood, the song that you did beginning, and then, all the things that are going on in there. To be quite honest, I teach ethnic studies. So one of the things we look at in this form of education, institutions like LCC participated in the past in a lot of cultural genocide, a lot of damage. Okay? And basically the result of that education is that we are often ignorant of each other's ways and ignorant of each other's history. And so there has never been a place where the building was designed from day one to bring us all together. Yeah, we're all together in the classroom, but we're not learning about each other. Right. All right? And the Longhouse represents a technology for doing that intentionally. from the beginning. So when we
Right.
talk about sustainability, we got to talk about, all right, well, let's go to civilizations, okay, that have been around for longer than 1,000 years, and that's being generous with Western civilization, if you can call it up. I'll be nice. I'll be nice.
Getting
I
all
won't
But,
say nothing.
but I'm saying, okay, I gotta tell folks, again, you talk about all this talk about illegal aliens is, these people were welcome up here before you even had an alphabet in the language that we happen to be speaking in.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Oh, you don't remember that, huh? Well, guess what? I have yet to meet natives that didn't know about white people before Columbus. So
Right.
we knew about y'all, and we were expecting the good brother when Columbus came here, and
That's right.
oops, all right. So bygones be bygones somewhat, but here is a structure so that we can learn about each other, and everybody can contribute. So whoever that is, whichever community that is, come join us in this effort, because we have, basically the longer we wait, even though there are things that are going on, the more, it was interesting to hear, the cost of materials is going down because a lot of the materials are getting donated, but, the longer that we wait, the more expensive the
Labor
project
costs
gets. Labor costs
increase,
goes up,
insurance
right.
costs
Insurance
increase,
goes up.
Lots of things, just good old inflation, even
Yeah.
though, and here we get to play in the real world, I guess.
Right.
The real world of, lumber markets and things like that, in a situation where we're trying to find a whole lot of lumber to build a building, it's nice to see some lumber prices go down. And then also at the same time watching insurance rates and wage rates and things like that go up.
Gasoline.
So it is real important for us to really jump on the opportunity we have this season to do a lot of the work, to get a lot of the good work done on the Longhouse. And we're doing it. The foundations report. It is a mixture of situations that is going to make this all happen. My company donated the concrete forms for the foundation to be built by LCC staff, and it was placed by LCC staff. And one nice little component of that was that I was able to bring my company's concrete forms to the site so that they could do that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that cooperative spirit that bridges those budget gaps, that makes that concept, that may get stalled in the real world. How are we going to get out of that stalled state sometimes is to just cooperate and say, hey, we really need to keep building this, so I'm going to bring a piece to it so we can just move on, and we'll continue to do those things.
Yeah, and we're expecting, if everything goes well and smoothly, that we'll actually have a building, more or less. And what I mean by more or less is, the architectural drawings have trees and stuff like that. Yeah. So there are certain seasons that you can actually plant landscaping, and you get good deals on perennials and all that kind of stuff. But we're hoping to have the structure completed by September.
To be dried in. The larger structure to be completed, the roof to be on, and it to be dried in to help protect that investment that we've made so far in a lot of that building material. Should a big delay happen, that material that we've been so busy creating in that good way would suffer some degrade out there in the weather. And so it's real important for the community to know that this is a good time. If there's any volunteers out there, that want to come and join in on this, if there's any other contractors that want to participate in this, that now's the time to move our plans through, and also, to kind of poke LCC a little bit sometimes, that, getting the schedule together and things like that. Now's a real crucial time to get that momentum to put up the building, to raise the walls, so to speak, to get folks like myself back out here so that we can continue to build this longhouse, in the way that we have been doing. Part of why we're here today is to let our neighbors know that we're doing it in a good way, to show you guys that it isn't just a native theme on the building, that we're actually sending people up into the forest to find trees, to find the trees that are going to become part of this, to talk to tribes and say, hey, we're doing something really cool. What can you bring to it? and they bring truckloads of logs.
Yeah.
You know, which to any other construction project, you know, other builders wouldn't know what to do with a truckload of logs. You know,
Yeah.
but we're resourceful people, and
Yeah.
we can make quite a bit out of truckloads of logs. Because when I showed up here on campus, that's all we had. That's all we had. We had the parking lot and a bunch of logs. And
Big
from
piles.
that, that's right, from that big pile of logs, we were going to build the first native longhouse on a community college campus in the entire country.
No, there's someone
Oh.
else that has beat us now.
Oh gosh, see, there's that schedule
but
again.
this
There's
is
that
On the West
schedule.
Coast, at least?
yes, up
Okay.
north
Yeah.
somewhere.
All right.
And I'm not sure that
Yeah.
they finished theirs or
Yeah.
not yet. I haven't checked
Yeah.
on it. What has happened there is that we are going to be definitely the first traditional looking, okay, on a community college campus in the nation, as we know so far.
Yeah,
But there might be something else out there.
yeah.
You brought up the thing about volunteers. Now, I don't want everybody to come running down here and talking about, I want to volunteer, I want to volunteer. There's certain criteria that you have to have. Number one, you have to be able to sign a waiver that you will not sue the college no matter what happens to you. If you drop a nail on your foot, you're not going to get any money. Second thing is you have to come in with a verifiable, excuse me, health insurance or insurance for yourself. And the third thing is, and this is where it gets kind of touchy legally, you can't come in and volunteer if your company has worked on this site or is bidding on this site for work. So there's a little bit there on that. So save your time. I'd love to have
Yeah,
that.
we can work out those details later.
Yeah, at a later
and
time.
basically, obviously, those things are legally defined. And
Yeah.
all that.
Right.
Very
The,
much.
the important part is now that they've created a legal format so that volunteers can participate.
Yeah, we can.
So I know I've personally spoken to a lot of folks out there that were a little frustrated about not being able to volunteer, or the perception that they weren't able to volunteer. And we're working on that every day, trying to find good ways to get people that are interested in participating in this to where they can actually take ownership of the building and come help build the longhouse. There was a lot of talk today in the committee meeting about a work experience program with some of the local tribes for getting folks involved with the actual construction in a work experience project.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of interest from students here at LCC to wrap this construction project in a cultural class, in a construction class, or something like that. And we are working on that.
Yes.
We are working on that.
So, final thoughts, because time has ticked.
Today's proved to be quite interesting at the meeting. We accomplished a lot and identified a lot
Yeah.
of things that need to be done and need to be done quickly. The facilities management out here, they would like to have the building up in June.
Yeah.
So that's the big goal. That's the first phase right now. That's the walls on and roof up. So this is what we need. We need, if we got a roofing contractor out there that wants to donate the roof, that would be fantastic. Or we can buy the materials and he could build it by himself.
Yeah. Or she, or they, however that works. And say again.
It's a good time.
Yeah, and we need money.
Money,
That's
right.
That goes without saying, I would hope. Yeah, we're short.
Yeah,
like
well,
any,
I mean, essentially, probably another, 100,000 quarter
100
million?
and a
I don't
quarter.
know, 100 and quarter.
I
yeah,
think.
that's,
I'm not even sure right
people
now.
are throwing out figures,
Yeah.
whatever. Okay.
Well, I just got out of another meeting just before I came here, and that we're going to get together, myself, facilities, and the foundation, and put a dollar value on
Yeah.
everything. See exactly what's going on, so we
Right.
can really get this identified.
Do you want to send us out with a song?
Yeah.
Go for it.
This song is one that, if people ask, what kind of songs do I sing to the trees, this is a Hopi creation song. And there's a story that goes along with it that maybe next time I'll be able to tell you guys. Chawatena me koiye, chawatena ato. Chawena me koiye, chawatena ato. Himalo, 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 himacho. Chawatena me koiye, chawatena ato. Chawena me koiye, chawatena ato. Himalo, 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 himacho. Chawatena me koiye, chawatena ato. Chawena meko eye chawatena ato. Himalo, 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 himacho.
Oh, thank you. Pony Gilbert, Richard Archambault, thank you for coming.
More than happy to.
This has been DiversiTV. If you like what you've seen and want to email comments or offers of help, you can
Money.
send money. Money can't be taken at liveclass@lcc.edu, but any other communications, we can hook you up. Feedback, let us know how you like it and what you'd like to see on the show. And we'll be back next week. This will be rebroadcast tomorrow night, the same time, and then Friday night at 10 o'clock. This has been DiversiTV. Go well, stay well.